It was nearly midnight when I finished closing up the electronics store. Every Friday, I was the last one out, responsible for setting the alarm and locking the heavy steel doors. The mall emptied quickly after 9 p.m., transforming from a vibrant hub into a cavernous, desolate shell. My footsteps echoed unnervingly as I made my way towards the main exit, the distant hum of the ventilation system my only companion. Tonight, however, felt different. As I passed the darkened food court, I heard a faint, rhythmic thudding. It sounded like a shopping cart, but slower, heavier, dragging. I paused, my hand instinctively reaching for the security radio on my belt. No one else should be here. I called out, "Hello? Security?" My voice seemed to dissipate into the vast emptiness. The thudding stopped. I waited, heart pounding, listening for any other sound. Nothing. Just the hum. I tried to rationalize it, a maintenance worker, perhaps? But they usually used their own smaller carts, not the clunky metal ones from the grocery store. I dismissed it as my imagination, an effect of the late hour. As I nearing the exit, the thudding started again, closer this time, and faster. It was coming from the corridor leading to the abandoned wing of the mall, the section with the long-shuttered toy store and the forgotten arcade. I knew that wing was permanently sealed off, even to staff. There was no way in or out. Yet, the sound was unmistakable now, accompanied by a faint, metallic scraping. It sounded like something was being dragged. A chill snaked up my spine. I quickened my pace, fumbling with my keys for the main exit. Just as I reached the door, a low, guttural moan echoed from the abandoned wing, followed by a child's faint, sing-song laughter. My blood ran cold. I slammed the door shut, locking it with a trembling hand, and sprinted to my car. As I drove away, I glanced back at the mall's darkened facade. In one of the upper windows, a single light flickered on, then off. But that wing had no power, and hadn't for years. It was sealed, completely sealed. I saw it turn on again, and this time a small, indistinct figure was silhouetted against it. But it wasn't a child's silhouette. It was a mannequin. The one from the old toy store, its glass eyes fixed on me, waiting. And then I heard the laugh again, not from inside the mall, but from the back seat of my own car. It was a Tuesday, a slow day. I had lost track of time browsing a new bookstore, completely engrossed in a particularly dense historical fiction. When I finally looked up, the mall was eerily quiet. The bright overhead lights had been replaced by a sparse, amber emergency glow. My stomach dropped. I had been locked in. Panic began to set in. My phone had no signal, as usual in the mall's deeper sections. I tried the nearest exit door locked. I pounded on it, shouting, but my voice was swallowed by the vast, silent space. The security office was on the opposite side of the mall, and I knew the night guards did their rounds. I figured if I just made enough noise, someone would eventually find me. As I walked through the main thoroughfare, the quiet started to feel heavy, oppressive. The store windows, usually so inviting, now looked like vacant eyes staring out into the gloom. The mannequins, in particular, seemed different, more present. As I passed a clothing boutique, I swore one of them had shifted its arm, ever so slightly. My mind played tricks on me, I told myself, the shadows making them appear alive. Then I heard it. A soft, rhythmic clink, clink, clink. It was coming from the department store ahead. Not a guard, I realized. The sound was too light. More like a child dragging something small and metallic. I called out again, my voice trembling. "Hello? Is anyone there?" The clinking stopped. The silence that followed was absolute, deeper than before. I decided to head towards the sound, thinking it might be another trapped shopper. As I cautiously entered the department store, the emergency lights flickered, plunging sections into near darkness. I saw nothing, but the air grew colder, and a faint, sweet, metallic smell filled my nostrils. I heard the clinking again, this time from behind a display of children's clothes. I peered around, heart hammering. There was nothing there. But lying on the floor, perfectly centered, was a single, old-fashioned music box. It was open, and the tiny ballerina inside was slowly, deliberately spinning, making the clink-clink sound. I had never seen it before. My eyes darted around the empty store. Then the public address system crackled to life, a distorted, garbled whisper filling the silence. It sounded like my name. Not just my first name, but my full name, echoing through the hollow corridors, accompanied by the faint, distant music box melody. I wasn't just trapped, I was being observed, and I knew, with a horrifying certainty, that this wasn't the first time the mall had played this game with me. My car keys were still in my hand. I had driven here, but I couldn't remember driving here, or ever leaving. The new mega mall was a labyrinth, a sprawling concrete beast designed to swallow time. I had ventured deep into its lower levels, seeking out a specific, obscure comic book store. But somewhere along the way, I lost my phone signal. A dead zone, I figured, common in these massive structures. I tried to retrace my steps, but every corridor looked identical under the oppressive glare of the fluorescent lights. Soon, the stores started to look different, older. The bright, modern facades gave way to dim, dusty windows, displaying items that felt decades out of date, clunky old electronics, fashioned from the early 2000s. The air grew stale, heavy with the scent of forgotten merchandise and dust. I had clearly stumbled into a disused section of the mall, a forgotten wing. Then I saw him. A small boy, no older than 7, standing perfectly still in front of a darkened toy store, his back to me. He was wearing clothes that also seemed out of place, a faded denim jacket and sneakers that looked like they belonged in a vintage photograph. "Excuse me?" I called out, my voice sounding unnaturally loud in the silence. "Are you lost?" The boy didn't move. He just stood there, facing the dark window. I approached cautiously. "Hey, little guy, where are your parents?" As I got closer, I noticed something strange. His hair was meticulously combed, almost too perfect, and his stance was rigid, unnatural. He wasn't breathing, or at least, I couldn't see his chest rise and fall. I reached out a hand, intending to gently tap his shoulder. Just as my fingers brushed his jacket, he slowly turned his head. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and a dull, glassy blue, like polished stones. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, and he whispered, "Are you lost too?" His voice was flat, devoid of emotion, like a recording. Then his eyes seemed to focus not on me, but through me, at something far behind. Suddenly, My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. A single bar of signal. I pulled it out, relieved. There were a dozen missed calls, all from my wife. I looked back at the boy, but he was gone. Vanished. The toy store window was still dark, reflecting only my own bewildered face. I called my wife back, my voice shaky. "I'm so sorry. I got lost in the mall. My phone died." She cut me off, her voice hushed and distant. "Honey, you're not in the mall. You haven't been in a mall in 20 years. Not since our son disappeared in that abandoned wing." The phone went dead. I looked down at my hands. They were old, wrinkled, not my hands, and the faint reflection in the dusty storefront was not my face. "My name is Alex, and I'm a night security guard at the Pinnacle Mall. Most nights are boring. Checking doors, turning off forgotten lights, dealing with the occasional homeless person seeking shelter. But for the past month, things have been off. It started subtly. One night, I found a single red sneaker on the food court table. Odd, but not unheard of. I put it in lost and found. The next night, it was back, in the exact same spot. I knew I hadn't forgotten it. I had logged it. A prank, I thought. But then the changes grew stranger. A mannequin in a sportswear store, usually posed dynamically, would be seated on a bench, facing the wall. I'd correct it, only to find it back in its new position the next evening. It became a game. Each night, I'd look for the discrepancies. A display of shirts in a department store, folded perfectly, would be slightly ruffled, as if someone had just picked one out. A specific chair in the empty food court would be pulled out from under the table, facing the entrance, as if someone had just stood up and walked away. There was never any sign of forced entry, no alarms triggered, just these impossible, silent alterations. My shift partner Mark just laughed it off, attributing it to sleep deprivation or a ghost. But I knew it was more. It felt deliberate, like someone or something was leaving me messages, or playing with me. Last night, it escalated. I was doing my final rounds past the jewelry store. The display case, usually pristine, had a single delicate silver locket lying open on the velvet, not in its designated slot. As I leaned closer, I saw a tiny faded photograph tucked inside. It was a picture of me. Not current me, but a younger me. Perhaps in my late teens, smiling, standing in front of a familiar mall entrance. The Pinnacle Mall, but decades ago when it was new. My blood ran cold. I dropped the locket, my heart pounding. I looked around the silent, brightly lit corridor. No one. My radio was silent. I tried to collect myself, telling myself it was a cruel joke. But as I turned to leave, I saw it. The mannequin from the sportswear store, the one that kept changing its pose, now stood in the jewelry store window, directly behind the locket display. It was facing me, its head tilted, and its blank, painted eyes seemed to be holding a knowing, unsettling gaze. And then, from the seemingly empty food court, I heard the faint scraping of a chair being pulled out. It wasn't a game. It was a cycle. And I was stuck, forever walking these halls, witnessing the echo of past events that hadn't happened yet, endlessly searching for a message I was meant to deliver to myself.